Deepti ma'am, you can begin now. Deepti ma'am, you can start now. Yeah, you're on mute.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm CA Dipti Sethia, and I welcome you all to today's webinar on professional opportunities for CAs in ADR on 7th of August from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., being organized by the Committee on Commercial Laws, Economic Advisory, and NPO Cooperatives of ICAI. In a short while, we will start this webinar. I would like to apprise you about CCLEA and NPO Committee. The committee is ably led by Chairman CA Abhay Jain and Vice Chairman CA Pramod Jain, who have been instrumental in guiding the initiatives undertaken to broaden professional horizons for members of the Institute. It is my privilege to moderate this session today. This committee works with a mission to encourage chartered accountants to shape strategy and policy that unlocks economic, financial, and social values. It is actively involved in knowledge dissemination, providing inputs to policymakers, and creating awareness among CAs about emerging professional avenues. Today's session is part of the Know Your Laws series 109th edition and is aimed at exploring career opportunities for CAs in alternative dispute resolution, that is ADR. Our eminent speaker will guide us on how ADR can open up rewarding professional avenues for finance professionals like us. It is now my honor to introduce our distinguished speaker for the day, CA Neeraj Kochar. CA Neeraj Kochar is a chartered accountant and company secretary, also certified as a fraud examiner. He is currently a partner at Accuracy and has over 12 years of rich experience in dispute advisory, and forensic accounting, financial due diligence, valuation, and transaction advisory. He started his career with PwC in statutory audits and moved to KPMG's transaction services before joining Accuracy. His expertise spans a wide variety of arbitration matters under SIAC, ICC, LCIA, and India ad hoc arbitration across sectors like defense, energy, FMCG, media, infrastructure, automotive, and real estate. He has also conducted forensic investigation uncovering frauds, financial misappropriation for high-profile clients, including Amazon, SoftBank, and others. We are honored to have you today to help us explore how chartered accountants can play a meaningful role in ADR matters through valuation, damages assessment, and forensic investigations. I now invite CA Neeraj Kochar to deliver his session. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Diptiji, for a kind introduction. I hope I'm audible to everyone. And without wasting much further time, I'll quickly deep dive on today's topic, which is opportunities in ADR and the role that chartered accountants can play. Now, let me set the context, right? If we were to break this topic into two parts, one is opportunities in ADR, and the second is what roles CAs can play. Now, if you take a step back and look at it, uh, if you really look at the Indian judiciary system, it is super overwhelmed with the case loads. There are about 3 million plus cases that are pending in Indian courts. What does that mean? That means that there is a paradigm shift that the government, the judiciary is envisaging to reduce the caseload, to fasten up the process, to to help the ease of business agenda which is being fostered by the government, and all of this are pointing toward one direction. That there is a need to be some sort of resolution of issues beyond the court systems which are heavily burdened, which in essence is really giving birth to the ADR, or the alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. And with all that is happening within the Indian economy, within the judiciary, the push for Make in India, the government is really pushing towards alternate dispute resolution schemes so that there could be faster cost efficient and flexible approaches of resolutions of conflict. We will get down deeper into what it means in terms of practicalities, but this is one of the reasons why, as an increasingly we see a trend that ADR is really picking up and it's just starting. It is here to stay, and I see that in the times to come it will only increase. Now, the role of the CA is the second part of our topic today. Um, we are obviously, all of us are in the middle of a phase where we are witnessing a shift which happens in once a century or in 50 years, with artificial intelligence, with a lot of mechanical aspects of the works that we used to know are being automated. um, AI is something which is taking part of most of the discussions that are happening today. It is more so important for us to find avenues where we can add value, where we can use our expertise in a context where we bring in through our training, through our curriculum. And I feel ADR and the realms of ADR are something that provides us that opportunity, and we'll discuss that in detail. My opening submission would be that CAs will definitely now find new frontiers of influence beyond just the balance sheets and the boardrooms. The objective for me today is to share some practical uh, and personal experience with you as to what really it means in terms of ADR in India, how it practically works, and how we as a community could have a share of this pie, which is really growing year on year. And if by the end of it, if I'm able to share some of my experience, I'll be more than happy to have more people working on this cause, which I've been involved in over the last 10 years. So, with that, let's just quickly jump into the topic. Let's first start with understanding, the brief agenda is, and I will be keeping it more in on more practical, example based, and real life situation based, scenarios which I'll share with you, and share some of the platforms where you can really utilize to find an opportunity as a chartered accountant. Now, the agenda I briefly laid out here is, as you can see, is start with a brief recap of understanding what a dispute resolution, an alternate dispute resolution mechanism is, why there is a need for a CA in this ADR ecosystem, and how we can really utilize this to our benefit. If you have any questions, please keep on putting it in the question box, and we will have a Q&A session towards the end of our conversation. So I'm starting with an assumption that some of y'all know about this ADR, some of y'all do not know about ADR. So a quick recap of what an ADR is, and what dispute means, what alternate dispute resolution means, and so on. And then we will jump on to how we can utilize it, because knowing the topic itself is very important. Then only we can know where we can play some part in it. So, the dispute resolution, as the name suggests, is a process used to settle disputes outside a courtroom. It's as simple as that. It's an alternative resolution forum for conflicts. There are multiple ways in which these alternate resolutions can take place. We will discuss those, but in plain and simple words, it's an alternative to the courts to resolve disputes. Now, what I want to discuss, as I was saying earlier, is how we can use these alternate dispute resolution mechanisms ecosystem to really carve a way for ourselves and be part of this ever growing ecosystem, which is ADR, and especially in India. So, before knowing what really alternate dispute resolution is, let's first quickly touch upon what is a dispute. I'm sure everyone here is aware what a dispute in plain simple term means, but in a commercial sense, in a business sense, there is a definition which is set out by the United Nations Commission on International Trade, which says that a disagreement between two or more parties arising from a legal or contractual issues, typically involving claims that one party believes have been violated or are in conflict. In simple terms, a dispute when two or more parties who are part of a particular transaction contract disagree on some of the facts or some of the interpretation in that contract, that leads to dispute. The very next step to that is, how do you resolve that dispute? Either parties speak with each other and get to a resolution, or then the matter escalates. And there is a matrix to this escalation. There is a hierarchy. People generally would go to lower level court, depending on the issues at different forums or tribunals, etc. Or what does the agreement specify how parties will resolve their conflict, if such a conflict were to be occurred ever, is always part of the transaction documents or agreements that generally party enter into, and we will discuss these as well. But just to summarize on disputes, as I said earlier, it's just a point of disagreement on a contractual situation. Now, disputes could be of multiple type. There could be some financial or commercial disputes, disputes that arise of some operational matters, and I'll take some of the examples in the next slide. There could be legal disputes as to what is an interpretation of a particular agreement clause that has been set out in a document signed by both the parties. Or there could be social disputes, which is beyond the realm of our discussion today. So let me take some of the examples to understand what a dispute in our context of business company environment would mean. Let's say there is a contract between two parties, and they have agreed that in any case, when there is a delay, that the contract relates to supply of certain material within a certain time. And the parties, when they were entering into that contract, they envisage that there might be some situations where other party might default either in payment or on supply. So they bring in a clause where as to saying that if there is any delay, let's say a delay in supply, delay in payment, or delay in the process of manufacturing, what will be the outcome and where will this be resolved? So this would be a dispute where parties comes to a standstill saying that, okay, I was to receive the material within X days, you have taken X plus 10 days, it has lost the business value for me. Now I will not buy the product. Now someone needs to come in and resolve this issue that, okay, what was the agreement, what actually happened, and what is the remedy to that. So that would be a dispute arising out of a simple contract or a transaction. A shareholder dispute. This is something that you would have heard, or there are a lot of cases when minorities feel that they have been, there is an oppression and mismanagement. There has been some sale that has happened at an unfair valuation, or there has been some breach of covenant that were agreed between the shareholders. Now, when this happen, all of this escalates into dispute, be it at an LCLT level or at any other level. But this is another kind of disputes that arise between the shareholders. The first one was between two parties who are independent engaged in a transaction. This one is more around when there are two shareholders who are part of a common shareholder agreement but face certain kind of disputes. And similarly, there could be multiple such scenarios when within the business environment, because the transactions, because the business operations are getting so complicated, there are several disputes that arise. Some of them go to the court, some of them parties have already agreed that we will resolve it in a out of court forum, which will be much faster, much quicker, and help us proceed very quickly. Moving on, so let's take a practical example of how a dispute would unfold. Uh, there is a real estate builder and there is an investor who has put in money on a real estate project. Now the builder has further subcontracted the part to a contractor who's making the building. Now the building is running delayed by a year or two. The investor who had invested the money in the project had invested with expectation of the project being completed in a year or two, or let's say in a 2 year time gap, but the project is now running delayed by 2 years. Now when you come look at it from the investor's perspective, he's lost the time and he's lost the return that he was expecting from the money that he invested. Now, from the developer side, he's saying the delays happened from contractor and I can't do anything. I'm incurring more cost of labor, cost of material, increase in prices. So he's asking for more money. Now it's sort of a standstill situation. It's a real life case. How do you resolve it? The parties are not coming to a common consensus. Now the agreement between the parties say that okay, we'll go for mediation, which is a type of alternative dispute resolution mechanism. It says that okay, we'll have a neutral third party who will come and look at the facts and help us arrive at a solution to the problem. If we are unable to do that, because even we do not agree what the neutral third party is saying, we will go to an arbitration, which is a out of court quasi judicial process, which operates like a court process but happens outside court, and the awards are enforceable under the Indian Arbitration Act. So it will escalate further. So the matrix of escalation will continue to increase if the dispute is not resolved. So this is an example how the real life disputes can happen. Not get into the examples, all of them. Now, so we've understood, what is a dispute. What would it mean in a business sense, in a business environment, for a company? Now let's understand what is an alternative dispute resolution. It's very simple. It's basically to say when a neutral third party, a mediator or an arbitrator, comes in to resolve the conflict, which is arising out of any agreement, any transaction outside the courtroom, under some act which will be based on the mechanism that you choose. It covers a wide range of processes and techniques which parties use to settle their dispute that would have arisen for n number of reasons, which we just discussed a while back. So, quickly rewinding, alternative dispute resolution is when with the help of a neutral third party, we resolve as parties our conflict outside the court. That the very next thing is okay, understood of, and we understand what an alternative dispute means theoretically. What are the different types? How can you do it? So that's the next part where we discuss on what are the different types of alternative dispute resolution. One is plain simple negotiation, when like much like any contract, any business transactions, parties can come to a table, discuss what is the issue, what went wrong, can we resolve it, is there a middle ground? No. Okay, then let's go to the next. Have someone in, let's mediate it. Mediation is nothing but when you bring in a third party who helps both the party to see the light of the day. That okay, listen, everyone will have their point of view, but as a neutral person, I see that this has happened, this is the logical sequence of event, these are the facts, and this is the impact. Now what the mediator does is shows what is the positives and negatives of what the parties are fighting about, or the dispute is all about, and how they can resolve it in a most beneficial manner for both the parties. That is mediation, nothing but that you mediate between two parties who are unable to resolve a conflict. Now mediation is something that is really gaining traction in India. There is a very recent mediation, the Mediation Act of 2023, that has come about. The government is heavily pushing towards mediation as one of the mechanism, because it is felt that it will really lessen the burden of the courts. It will fasten up the dispute and the conflict resolution process. And this is enforceable now under the Mediation Act. So if the parties comes to a table, agree to a settlement, sign a settlement agreement, that is now enforceable. So mediation can help when a neutral, knowledgeable third party comes, looks at the facts, looks at the commercials, and suggests and advises as to what is the best way. And if both the parties are able to agree, it really resolves the conflict and there is no further escalation. Similar to mediation, there is conciliation. A lot of times, suppose there is a dispute, they went to court, the court says, okay, this is beyond our realm, they should go to conciliation first. What is the conciliation? Conciliation can be considered as a brother of mediation, but a bit more stricter, where conciliation is conciliator drives the entire process of discussion, provides suggestions, and enforces some of the settlement mechanisms as to why it should happen and why should be the way the conciliator is suggesting. Mediation is more of hand holding, conciliation is more of leading it from the front and guiding both the parties as to, this is what I feel is correct. And if both of them agree, the conciliator pass his or her order. If the matter doesn't end in conciliation, that parties don't agree to what conciliator is saying, the last mechanism of escalation within alternative dispute resolution is arbitration. Now, arbitration is nothing but it's a quasi smaller court setup. We can assume, as things stand today, there is an arbitration act which governs it, but in plain, simple, common layman's language, it is a setup where, let's say, ex-judges or tribunal members of expertise and experience come and arbitrate the case as if it was happening in the court. So all the steps and processes are followed. There are submissions. Parties put their pleadings. They put forward their case. Parties put their, evidence, and the arbitrator, be it a judge, be it a tribunal expert member, or any engineer or whosoever it is, will look at the facts of the case, look at the merits of the arguments and evidences at hand, and pass an award, which will be as good as an award by the court, an award of court of law. Now, this is the most as things stand as of today, most commonly followed practice that people go to arbitration, and more people don't want to go to the court route because it is very costly. Two, it takes a lot of time to get to an award, and even after that, there are multiple challenges. So, the Arbitration Act, in its essence, wants to reduce all of that and bring a credible body which provides resolution to all the disputes that would previously go to court but now can be settled outside court via arbitration. All of these phenomena are not only prevalent or increasing in India. These are international phenomena and happening from ages. It is very well established practices across different geographies: UK, Europe, US. Even in India, now it has picked up over the last few years substantially, where people more and more prefer to go for arbitration than to court or through other route, because it really resolves the conflict quickly and you can continue with your business and go move ahead in life with your core competence and the kind of work that you want to do. So this brings us to the stages and the types of alternative dispute resolutions that we practically in the world of business see. Now these all of these kind of escalations are places where we can play critical, substantial role, and that is what I want to discuss today, and I'll share some examples, the role that I have played in the past in these situations, but more importantly, how you can find your pockets where you can be part of this new emerging avenue of growth. Now, some of the topics that cannot be arbitrated or go into an alternative mechanism is obviously not necessarily there. You can always do mediation for matrimonial matters, but arbitration is something which is, as I was saying, is a quasi court like procedure which cannot apply in cases when there are matrimonial matters, insolvency cases, criminal offenses. All of these will, and this is defined by Arbitration Act as well, all of this will continue to be managed and dealt with by the court. Dissolution winding up, and there are certain bodies such as NCLTs, etc., that are there, which manage a lot of these topics as well. Matters relating to guardianship and minors, and testament matters for validity of will, and so on and so forth. So all of this cannot be arbitrated. The realm of our discussion today is more of business related disputes and business related dispute resolutions, which are increasing and are here to stay in the times to come. So we've understood what negotiation is, we understood what mediation is. Let's dive a bit deeper into arbitration because it's a bit more complex than the previous two topics. Now, arbitration can be of two types. One is an institutional arbitration, one is what we call as ad hoc arbitration. Now, institutional arbitrations are nothing but it is those matters which go into arbitration and are governed by certain bodies or organizations, such as there is an organization called International Chamber of Commerce, ICC. There is an organization called uh, Mumbai Chamber of International Arbitration. There is a chamber called the institution called SIAC, LCI, which I will share a bit more about later. These institutes provides guidelines as to if there is a dispute that has happened and you want to resolve dispute, you can come to us and we have a charter, we have a rule book which says that how the dispute will be resolved. So parties when enter into an agreement, if they are aware and more complex transaction when there are lawyers involved, they suggest that let's agree that if something goes wrong in future, the matters will go into arbitration. And in an institutional arbitration, because you have an institution governing the entire process, who has a set of rules, who has a set of policies, and who gives us the comfort that everything will flow as per what we have agreed and what we want in the manner it to happen. Um, a point to be very mindful of is these institutions do not arbitrate the matter. They provide a space, a mechanism, a platform for arbitrators, judges, etc., to arbitrate with using and following the rules of the institution. So it's basically a setup, a platform where there is a set of rules, regulation, a set of impaneled tribunal members who come together. The parties want to conduct their dispute in this forum. They can apply for that, and they can use their assets and their policies to resolve their conflict through their infrastructure. Contrary to that, if the parties have not agreed to any institution, it goes into ad hoc arbitration. Now, ad hoc arbitration is nothing but it is governed by the Arbitration Acts, where the parties individually select whom they want to appoint as their arbitrator. Now, arbitrator is a judge, an equivalent of judge. Okay, so suppose the agreement that party entered into will say that we want one arbitrator or three arbitrators. So if it is defined, then each side will appoint an arbitrator who will appoint both of them will appoint a common third chair who will be part of the arbitration tribunal. It is very important to note, like as things stand right now, most of the arbitrators are retired judges from high court. And
Neeraj sir, excuse me. Sorry to interrupt.
yes, please.
Your slides are not moving, sir.
It's moving at my end. Which slide can you see right now?
Sir, the first one,
Okay, I'm on slide 10 actually.
the title slide, yeah.
Wait, let me just
It's not moving at our end.
wait, let me just reshare. Can you see my screen now? Hello?
No, sir. No, sir.
Can you see the screen?
No, sir. No, sir. It's not visible. Now I can see your screen. Yes, sir.
Is it
Tech
moving
support, please
now?
assist. Yes, it's now moving.
Okay. Just a quick recap. So we just touched quickly on what ADR is. We touched on what dispute is. Sorry, there was some technical error, I guess. We took some examples. We understood of what are the various stages of of dispute resolution, and we were here. Mayank, please confirm the slides are working for you now.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Now we can see institutional versus ad hoc.
Perfect. So
Yes.
yeah, I was here saying that so the second aspect of how the arbitrations are conducted is these ad hoc, where parties appoint a judge who appoint an arbitrator who's generally a retired judge, and then these arbitral tribunal members run the case as if it was being run in a court through the arbitration rules which are set in the Arbitration Act. So we discussed as to what an institutional arbitration would mean and what an ad hoc arbitration would mean. Now, some of the examples of these arbitration institutions are, as I was saying, there's something called LCAI, which is London Court of International Arbitration, Singapore International Arbitration Center, ICC. So these are international arbitrations. A lot of Indian parties, and more increasingly, as there are more cross-border transactions, all the transaction document, be it in context of a mergers or acquisition, or be it in contract of in commercial contract for any supply, purchase, or any service, there's always a dispute resolution mechanism, and there's more and more the higher the complex the transaction is. Uh, Companies tend to define an international arbitration institution to settle their dispute. Having said that, over the last few years, there has been significant development, and there are institutions in India that are coming about for arbitration, for managing arbitration processes and conducting arbitration in India under certain ages of certain institutions. Some of them are Mumbai Center of International Arbitration. This is Mumbai based, but obviously does matters across. There's Nani Palki Arbitration Center, which is in Delhi. There is Delhi International Arbitration Center. There is one in Bangalore. There is something called ICA, which is Indian Council of Arbitrator. All of these institutions are nothing but there to facilitate arbitrations when there is disputes between the parties, and all of them are the caseload of all of them are increasing year on year, which means obviously more the transaction, more complex the business environment, more the possibility of parties going into a dispute and then needing a forum to resolve it. So all of them are really gaining traction. For SIAC, India is the third highest user. Imagine, for an institution housed in Singapore, there is the Indian cases, the cases involving Indian parties are the third highest in terms of volume. Similarly, in LCAI, in ICC also we contribute a large number. So a lot of Indian parties are using these forums to resolve their disputes, be it between two Indian parties, be it between Indian and an international party. And all of these forums are heavily used by businesses and companies to settle their disputes and matters. The next bit on what are the key stages, and I will very quickly touch upon these. I'll not go into very detail, and I'll tell you why it is relevant. There are multiple stages that happens in an arbitration, and we as chartered accountant can be relevant at each stage. And I will share this again once we have agreed and discussed what roles CAs can play. But we should know what are the various stages and who are the players in the ecosystem whom we can tap into to get some work and play some important role in ADR. So in an arbitration, there are multiple stages. Very quickly speaking, one is a pre-arbitration stage when the arbitration is not yet fully kicked, but the parties have entered into a dispute. They are unable to resolve it, and they have now given notices to each other that we want to proceed formally and set up an arbitration either through institution or through ad hoc mechanism. The next is when the arbitration commences, the parties write to each other what their issues are and write to the institution to administer the matter, or write to the tribunal, appoint the tribunal members to carry the matter in form of arbitration. then once the institution has taken over and tribunal has been formed, or if the tribunal has been formed in the ad hoc process, the hearings start. There are multiple stages, there are multiple styles of hearings, but not going into that detail. But there might be multiple hearings. Parties will submit their pleadings, which could be what is their claim, what is their defense, what are the replies to those. So multiple levels of submissions happens at the pleading stage. The next stage is parties bring in testimonies and evidences. It can be factual evidence, which when, let's say, there is a dispute for a long-term contract between two parties. For a cement manufacturing, let's take an example. A cement manufacturer had a 10-year contract, exclusive contract with a raw material supplier, that they will continue to supply for 10 years, minimum quantity each month. The contract continued for 2 years. The raw material supplier continued to supply the quantities as per the agreement. Third year, the cement manufacturer, excuse me, the cement manufacturer's business did not was not doing well as expected, so it stopped buying from this particular company the raw material and went to alternative sources. Now, the raw material provider had set up its plant based on a 10-year agreement, and it was exclusive, non-terminable. But during the second year, the manufacturer has decided that he doesn't want to continue the relationship. Now, as a raw material supplier, my invested are wasted because I invested assuming this will continue for 8 years, right? So the parties then go into dispute as to, okay, this is, and as per the contract, the terms have been breached. Now I am suffering a loss. So what that loss is, that something comes in as part of expert work, where you can say that, okay, what have I suffered because the contract is terminated, and does this happen is something that we will discuss in detail when we discuss the role of CAs. The next step is arbitration hearings. Obviously, the tribunal hears to the pleadings and the statements and the evidences and deliberates on that, and then eventually gives an award. And then, obviously, the next stage is towards the enforcement or any challenges the party want to do. The Arbitration Act is very clear. It provides all the steps. It provides a timeline within which it needs to be settled. I think it's set out as 18 months, that from start to end, everything needs to be completed. So it is very quick, very efficient. You also know upfront what is the cost that the institution and the tribunal members are going to take. So you know what you are going to invest from that perspective. Now you need to plead your case and come to a award which will be enforceable and will be as good as had it been gone to court. So, from all what we discussed so far, I think the conclusion is we've understood what an ADR is. I think we have recapped on what are the stages, what are the types of ADR mechanism, and what are the various phases within arbitration and types of arbitration. The sum of it all would be, what is the real benefit of ADR? And from all what we have spoken over the last 40 minutes, is one, it is obviously very cost effective as compared to the historical orthodox approach that has been followed, which runs over for years and going to different levels of court. Second, it's time efficient. Now, all of this obviously varies from case to case, but generally the ADR is supposed to be time efficient because it's a set deadline within which it needs to settle. It's supposed to be confidential. The awards are not publicly available. It is a closed door environment where discussions happen, deliberations happen, and the awards are given, which are not made to public. It's flexible. It is, it goes as per the directions of the tribunal, and it can be amended based on the needs of the party. It can be expedited. It can be delayed. It can be amended. It can happen online. All of this is possible based on the discretion of the parties and the tribunal. You have control over the process because you know what are the stages, what are the procedures. You have objectivity of neutrality because if the institution is governing, it's its duty to ensure that there is neutrality. B, if you have appointed arbitrator, both sides have appointed their representative. So it is assumed that there is a neutral body which will take this decision. It's ideally supposed to be less stressful because you don't have to go the rounds of court and you run around a issue for years, but you can quickly and efficiently resolve the matter. And obviously the outcome are durable and are enforceable, and even the court would, when challenged, would say that okay, this is as good as an award by a court if there is no lacuna in the award itself. We also discussed this, but rounding it off, that the ADR is really growing across the globe and more so in India. There's obviously overcrowded judicial system. There is globalization and cross-border transactions, which means that a lot of international players are coming to India and they want matters to be resolved quickly as they want to do business and not dispute. And that is why they look to settle disputes very quickly, alternatively to a court, and very in a very efficient manner. Litigation, or let's say the court procedures, comes all most of the times with exorbitant costs and time commitment, which are not really bottlenecks for an ADR. Um, Need for expeditious resolution again is the same point, that it really helps resolve pretty quickly. Now, the very next question that I have, and this is something that I would like everyone to spend at least a minute on while I have a couple of sip of water, is what. Uh, so the topic is why, and what is the need and requirement of CA in ADR. We've understood, I hope, about ADR. We've understood about different types of ADR mechanism and what are the benefits. Now, why is there a need and requirement of the CAs, and where we can play a crucial role is the next segment of the conversation today. What I want for 1 minute is for everyone present, spend a minute to think about what are the core competencies of a CA. We are the sharpest of the financial minds here, but what are the key skill sets that, and if we ask ourselves, what are the core competencies or skill sets that CAs bring to any conversation, to any forum, to any transaction? Just if you could quickly think about it, what comes first, two three things to your mind, if you can quickly message it in the group or chat, and then I will take it from there. It's very important because I think these are the core competence which will land us as to where we can play some role in these ADRs. Let me just quickly stop sharing now and let me come to. Mayank, do we have any? Can you hear me well, right? Hello.
Yes, sir, we can.
Perfect. So I don't know if I have access to the messages or not, but I can continue. My screen is visible, Diptiji, right now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So, anyways, I hope you all have had a chance to think through what are the key core competence and skill sets that we generally bring to any conversation. I would briefly summarize it here. I would say that one is analytical skills. Apart from basics, which is logic, ethic, and openness, I would say analytical skills are something that is really embedded on for us as to how to analyze financial documents, how to read um, commercial contracts, how to understand the compliance environment through our throughout our academia, through the entire process of our trainings and CA curriculum, that's really embedded to us as to how do you go about financial assessment, contractual interpretations, understanding the company law environment. All of that brings us to develop a clear analytical skill which can interpret different financial, contractual, and compliance environment. We have the ability to break down complex problems and bring clarity and simple solutions to complex multimodal problems that we face and that we have cracked through our work or experience, and before that as chartered accountant aspirants. The next one, obviously, negotiation mediation comes very directly to chartered accountants who are accustomed to speak with clients, who work with auditors, government official, etc., on different situations appear between tribunal, be it a tax tribunal, be it NCLT, etc. So this negotiations mediation really comes very naturally to most of us who are involved in that direction. Technical knowledge, I think we are unparalleled when it comes to financial knowledges and technical knowledge around tax, financial regulations. I don't think there is any other profession, especially in India, which has financial acumen or acumen on tax matters as much as we do. Obviously, the next is document management. We throughout our audit, throughout our work that we do through different streams as a chartered accountant, what we learn is to how to look at different documents, whether or not these documents make sense, to interpret them and to opine on them, whether as an auditor, whether as an advisor, or any other role that we play. And last but not the least, and the most underrated, is the ethical environment and ethical requirement of being a chartered accountant. It comes with integrity, objectivity, and professional competence. We all, as members of the institute, sign to the code of ethics and abide by it. I think it is a very underrated skill, and it is a very important virtue which will be relevant in ADR, and I will tell you how. Because you will more or less take a position of a judge if you become a tribunal member, and the very bare minimum expectation would be in that situation to have a clean bill of ethics and clean understanding of what is uh, what is objectivity, what is due care and due understanding of process, and being unjust when opining upon a certain matter which is within your technical skill set. So all of this is something that we possess in one form or the other through our work experience and the curriculum that really grills us to develop these skill sets. All of these are very relevant in ADR. Let's start with financial reasoning. Um, any expertise, any dispute between the parties would generally, at the end of the day, will be a dispute of money. When it comes to a dispute of money or money itself, uh, it comes into the realm, directly comes into the realm of what we chartered accountants start doing, right? Be it audit, be it being, working with the financials or with various different financial aspects. So any dispute will have an angle where, if it is a money dispute, where we as CAs can bring in our expertise of financial reasoning, financial analysis as to what went wrong money wise and what is the impact of that. So financial understanding is, it's something that we are engraved with, and that is very important in any dispute and extremely important in ADR. And how we apply it is something we'll keep on discussing. For example, let's say if there's a dispute about cash management between an investor and an investee company, about on working capital assessment. All of this is something that we do on a daily basis. A lawyer or a retired judge will not be able to comprehend beyond the legal aspects or the contractual aspects as to what it means technically. These are the places where we, as CAs can really bring in a lot of value in disputes. The next one, approaches to valuation. Let's assume there is a shareholders dispute where an investor is diluted substantially because of fresh issue of equity, and the investors alleges that the investment that has happened was without my consent and I've lost value, or in M&A situations. All of this will involve understanding financials, understanding the terms, understanding valuation as to how it was to happen. And this is something that we do day in, day out in different situations. And it's part of our profession, be it valuation for different asset, businesses, etc. Again, we can play a critical role here. Apart from that, obviously forensic this detection and fraud detection, it's again a specialized sales kit that is really valued in case of disputes between the parties. And then expertise, certain key expertise that might be relevant, that also becomes relevant, and CAs have it based on the domain that they choose, is working on models, working on financial analysis, working on different scenarios, etc. That can also be really helpful. But being analytical, being able to understand the financial, better understanding of the law, all of these are required for an individual to be part of an ADR environment. Now, coming to the cut to the chase, what are the roles that we can play as chartered accountants in alternative dispute? This is ARD, but ADR. Um, One, and the very first one would be as an arbitrator. CAs can act as arbitrators in cases when there are, especially in cases when it is on the verge of bankruptcy or relates to financial matters. Imagine there is a dispute which relates to money, which relates to financial statement frauds, or which relates to some valuation topic, and the arbitrators are legal ex-retired judges from High Court. They can understand the facts, they can understand law, but they'll not understand the concept of dilution, time value of money, etc. So more and more people have started to bring in technical topic expert as member of arbitrator tribunal. So one, first and foremost, CS can become arbitrator, can act like a judge in a dispute. You have to be, obviously be prepared. You have to understand the arbitration law. There's a course by ICAI on arbitration and conciliation act. And for you to become an arbitrator, you have to fulfill certain terms and conditions that the arbitration act requires, and you have to be able to understand the mechanics of the arbitration environment. But if you should check those boxes, you can very well become an arbitrator. And there are cases where people have relied to bring in, apart from judges, a technical expert, be it a CA or engineer, to help them with the case. So the first mode where CAs can play a role is become an arbitrator. Second, and this is sort of a long route where you need to really know the arbitration act, you need to know the law, you need to be empaneled, etc. But if you do that, there is a huge scope and requirement for people who have specific skills which otherwise are lacking in the legal community or the judges. The next bit is on mediator, being a mediator and conciliator. This is something that is increasingly in the market, seeing requirement around being a mediator or a person of common sensical voice speaking between the parties. And that is where our skill sets that I discussed earlier becomes very important, because we know how to negotiate, we know how to read contracts, we know how to interpret facts. We can definitely be a good mediator and help resolve the conflict and show parties factually this is what happened, contractually this is the interpretation, and financially this is the impact. And more often than not, people will listen to the voice of reason and try and come to a conclusion when guided appropriately. And as a chartered accountant, we are really trained and we are really grilled through our training courses to be able to take it up. Obviously, this will require practice, it will require us to build some knowledge of negotiations, etc. But we have the base to really tackle this avenue and become conciliator, be it suppose your client who's facing a dispute or who's facing a difficult situation, you can advise them, you can discuss between two parties, become a mediator, show them what the right way is and what would mean if they go further, where they will end up, and you can show them the entire roadmap as to what are the next steps, and they will really listen as to what needs to be done and what will happen, and they might go down the path that you suggest as a settlement. The next, and this is something that I have been part of some mediation, and it is something where you can really add value, and it's a matter which is within your domain and your knowledge. The next one, the next one is on the being an expert, and this is something that over the years I've done more than 35 plus arbitration where I've been part of expert teams. More and more the CAs are being used as experts in different contexts. Let's break it down. We are experts of financial statement. We are commercial experts, right? Um, Whenever there is a dispute, the dispute will involve, as I was saying, more often than not, some money matter, and you need someone who can come in and say what each party will put on their own best foot forward, but you need a neutral voice and a neutral expert to say that what really happened and what it means money wise, financial wise, and impact wise. That is what an expert is. You heard of the terms as forensics experts who do forensics assessment, be it handwriting expert, be it forensic accounting experts. Third aspect is financial experts or technical experts, such as ourselves, who can opine on topics relating disputes relating to financial statement, commercial transactions between parties, something around shareholders disputes, assets, businesses, acquisitions, and then obviously all of this. What does it mean? A party is suffering, a party is benefiting. Someone is required to give an independent view in these cases as to what it means in terms of impact or monetary term. So an expert will come in and say that, okay, this has happened. If I were to analyze this, after analyzing everything, this is the impact. And you provide your expertise by saying, okay, the contract got cancelled for raw material, the raw material supplier invested 100 crore, just serviced 2 years, he was left with 8 years of service. Okay, what is the time value of what he would have earned, and what is it today in terms of his loss? And you objectively quantify that and support the judge as to saying that if you agree that the contract has been breached, the damage or the loss or the claim is this basis my analysis, and that analysis can only be done by a financial expert. And more often than not, it is a CA. It can be CFA, cost accountant, but more and more, it is always a chartered accountant, a valuation expert, a cost expert, someone who can assess the financial impacts of certain transactions. And there is a huge requirement of this across different disputes because it's always relating to money and something that has gone wrong in respect of commercials arrangement between the parties. So we discussed we can explore being an arbitrator, we can explore being mediator, conciliator, we can become experts. How do you become an expert? That's a different topic. We'll discuss again further. You can become forensic audit. Hello.
I think the slides are not working.
Are you facing the same issue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is a bit weird, but I have. Let me reshare. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Hello,
yes, sir, now.
is it visible?
Yes, sir, different roles of chartered accountant.
Yeah. So we discussed that we can be an arbitrator, we can play a role as an arbitrator, mediator, conciliator, expert. So we discussed these three forums. The fourth is forensic auditor. Obviously, when there are cases of fraud, financial irregularities, the matters go into dispute. You need some experts who can assess or do financial forensic accounting, identify frauds, financial frauds, so on and so forth. That's a area where we are well equipped through our training in as a CA to enter into. Obviously, we have to develop our skill sets to be an expert, to be someone who's much like an auditor who does the work again and again and has gained that experience. That's given even as an auditor that we choose as a profession. We'd have to bring and build that skill set along with what we already have, but that's also an avenue. And in general, there is a huge space to play as an advisory to the lawyers, to the judges, to the clients as to what is the best way, and not following in within each of the above categories, but helping them with financial implications, right? Even suggesting whether or not you should pursue something like a dispute because it will come at cost. You will, get X amount out of it. It doesn't make commercial sense. So, and even suppose if the matter has gone further, other side has put some claims, you can advise your clients how to tackle it and what are the counter arguments and lacunas to what they are claiming. So in a nutshell, there are multiple forums and multiple opportunities the CS can explore within an alternative dispute resolution bodies, institutions, matters where there is always a need of an arbitrator. Whether a CA is required, we can step in. When there is conflicts, can we be the mediator? Can we resolve and get the parties to settle? We have all the skill sets. We have to be present. We have to be available. We have to be recognized and aware that we are the mediators and we are able to settle the dispute. Expert, very relevant. The parties have entered into disputes, the lawyers are fighting for the parties, but none of them have the skill set of putting numbers to make sense. And that is where they need people like us, chartered accountants, to help them. And this is something that is very, very indispensable, and a skill set that no other profession could really bring in a way that we would. So this is another role that we could really play and excel at. Forensics is in the same breath, and lastly, advising, which can happen at across levels. So where we can play the role is we discussed, but is there enough to really go after it? Hello, I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. And my screen is also visible, I hope. I'll be checking because it has been couple of times that it was not. Perfect. So the next bit is there enough opportunities even for chartered accountants to really enter and make a dent? There are multiple indicators which suggest that this is an avenue which is growing and will continue to grow. Number one, the growing use of ADR. Businesses, government is one of the biggest litigators. Think of any project, be it a highway project, be it a energy project, be it a nuclear project. There's one party is government and there is another party who enters into a contract with government. Now what happens is all of these contract never goes as per planned for various reasons, good or bad. Now some the parties who are putting in money, and a country who wants to develop cannot be stuck in a loop of uh, you know continuing to be going in a circle of disputes, courts, and running around legal matters. You need rational minds to come together and resolve issues, There could be legitimate issues, there could be operational issues, and some non unnecessary issues that are there. But if you were to develop as an economy, if you were to grow as an infrastructure, if you have to grow as international powerhouse and have international players come to your country, you have to have mechanisms which they feel that they will not be running around courts, they will not be unjustly exploited and so on. So the use of ADR is really increasing, and with the economy opening up, Indian parties want, everyone wants to do business, everyone wants to do what they want, they are entering in the market to do, and not get into litigations and legal matters. So ADR provides a good out, a good out in terms of not getting into the court but resolving it, fighting your issues and coming to a resolution and moving on. So the ADR use is increasing. Government who's government who's part of most of these disputes, government, PSUs, etc., as part of their concession agreement contracts, are also prescribing ADR as a mechanism. So just imagine they're saying that NHAI has, let's say, 50 disputes. NHAI would say, okay, we'll first mediate, then conciliate, then speak in a forum, and if all of that doesn't work, go to an arbitration, but we'll resolve it. That is the stance, and we'll then move forward. And you have contractors from international countries, international players coming, who appreciate that they see that, okay, the government is willing to do when he's investing in this relationship, and that is how they are also ready to invest in India. Similarly, transactions between private parties, both the parties' best interest is to set it off, to continue doing what they do, and they are more than happy to resolve it outside court. So the use of ADR is really increasing and will continue to increase, be it mediation, conciliation, or arbitration. The next bit I want to share is the expertise in especially in financial disputes, and most of the disputes will become a financial dispute in some way or the other, and we have really the exact skill set that is required in such cases. So I don't think any other profession brings that in. So there is a critical role that we can play, and more financial arrangements, transactions become complicated. It is our role, our responsibility, our learnings to resolve these uh, complex financial topics into simplified, understandable uh, situations. International arbitration is also growing, where Indian parties are going outside, foreign parties are coming to India, and all of that means that there is a lot of international arbitration, not only the ones happening in India but outside India. And there also people need experts who know about Indian financial environment, who know about Indian businesses, and are very relevant in such situations. And I've been part of a lot of such situations where there are big matters. There are disputes that happens between countries, mining disputes. There are several bilateral treaty issues, tax disputes. All of these are discussed, arbitrated in various forums apart from court. And all of these, in some form or the other, needs some of our skill set in one situation or the other, and we have the capability to tackle those for sure. The in international arbitration as well as Indian arbitrations forums historically, and this is a personal experience, there were a lot of ad hoc matters when parties used to not have an institution but appoint some judge as the tribunal and let them handle the case. But now, there are a lot of institutions that have come about in India. Institution runs through a process. That process involves certain steps. All these steps are thought through and need some sort of experts, need some sort of financial experts, need some sort of financial guidance, may need CAs to act as arbitrator. And if you're affiliated, if you know more about these institutions, if you start engaging with them, you will definitely be able to play some role there as well. Obviously, advisory and preparedness for ADR is also something that we discussed about. And ADR itself is evolving, and there are multiple layers, multiple discussions, multiple forums that multiple stakeholders who are on day-to-day basis discussing on the topic and trying to make this world and gold standard which is followed across the globe. So more and more as the mechanism of ADR gets better and more streamlined, we will have more role to play because everything will be structured and there will always be something where our expertise will be required. At this point, I hope we have participants who are able to understand. And if there is any questions, please feel free to reach out. I think we can take a quick break, uh, a comfort break, Dipti ji, for a couple of minutes,
Yes, sir.
and then maybe we can quickly resume and go to the next aspect of our topic today. I'll take 2 minutes then. Thank you.
Sir is taking a 2 minutes break. You all can write the questions, and then we'll later have a question answer round after the end of the deliberation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. Can we can continue or wait a minute? Sure. Can you see my screen, Dipti?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Let's resume. Um, so um, so we discussed, the roles that we can play, which is the most important part um, of the conversation today. But it's easy to say what is the role we can play, but how practically we approach to exploit these avenues is a really challenging topic and really challenging aspect that I feel whenever there's someone who says that, okay, you can do this. It's easier said than done, and it's very theoretical that way. But from my perspective, I would want to help in understanding how we can approach it. Obviously, it takes time, but how I approach it and how a new person willing to enter this field can approach it is something that I want to share. And I'm always available if there is any further queries. But in order to understand, how you can really be part of this ADR ecosystem, you have to understand who are the players in this ecosystem. So let's look at it from a outside in perspective. So if the matters have, there's a dispute, there'll always be a claimant who's claiming for something that has been wronged. So be it an individual, be it a company, be it a domestic company or an international company, be it a government entity or government itself or countries who are having uh, disputes between themselves. Now, these are the parties who will be either be the claimant or either will be on the other side, who will be the respondent. So these are the places where the dispute originates from. So a company had a contract with another company. That contract didn't materialize in the way it was supposed to. An individual had invested into something, it didn't give the return it was expected to, and so on and so forth. So you'll always have either of the two in these buckets, and these are the originators of dispute, whom you need to be connected, who needs to know that okay, you can be part of this ecosystem, because this is where the disputes starts. So if a company has, if it's your audit client, your advisory client, who is facing a difficult situation, should know that you as a CA can help him or her or his or her company to resolve that issue as a arbitrator, as a mediator, conciliator, or further down the line as an expert if the matters escalate into some arbitration forums, be it ad hoc or institutional. So be connected to the dispute originators. They should be aware of your ability to support. So this is the starting point, and the starting stakeholders who should have some inclination and understanding of what you do in this arbitration or ADR ecosystem. The next is other stakeholders, such as law firms, who generally are the first point of contacts. Let's say when the parties want to put forth a legal notice or put forth a dispute, they reach out to lawyers, advocates, or some counsels, or advisors who would be helping them to take their case forward. Now, these advocates will also be a key source of your opportunity, because a lot of what I do as expert comes from a lot of lawyers, because they are dealing a dispute for either of the parties, and that dispute has reached a certain stage where they either need an expert who can help them, they need some advice, or they need some assessment which relates to financial accounting, valuation, and other technical topic which are within the expertise that we bring. So either the dispute originators should know that you have the capabilities, or the stakeholders who manage the dispute process should be aware of uh, what you do and what expertise you bring. The third aspect is the dispute process managers, be it a tribunal or the institution who runs these uh, alternate dispute processes. They should be aware. We have had situations. I have had situations where the judges has asked us that okay, this is the case that I have. I don't know how to, value the shares. I don't know how to analyze working capital. Can you, as an independent expert, help me? So this is a third aspect where you can create your network, which can help you exploit the opportunity of ADR. And lastly is the court. If similar to ADR, in the court mechanism also they need experts, and they might need some sort of expertise, which is also can be used, but that's not a topic for the discussion today. So I'm going to the next slide. I hope that the slide has changed. Um Now, so I've told you what is the ecosystem and whom you need to be connected, but you need to do some homework, some skill building, some upskilling at your end as well. It cannot be that all the CS can be able to straight away tap into this avenue. You need to bring some specialized skill which is different than any other CA, or different than what you do on a daily basis. So let's say if you were to really really focus on ADR as something that you would want to do, I would suggest start with developing a core relating to ADR. How will you do that? There are several trainings, several institutions who provide these. In fact, ICAI has a certification course on arbitration and mediation. Get accredited, get certified, bring the credibility first. That is a very important aspect. This can be a first step which does not take more than, anything of your, more than your time, some money, and some learning, which will give you the first step to the next of many, to really make a dent in the ADR opportunities. So take the specialized training, build some credentials, get some accreditations, be certified. There are several institute. There's Institution Arbitration Mediation, Indian Council of Arbitration. All of these provide some certifications or the courses for people to be part of these community. And once you've done that, these bodies also provide accreditation that you are a recognized expert, you are a recognized arbitrator, and when any matters come, parties are able to choose you, or the institution is able to guide you as a suggestion to the parties. Consider courses on specialized skills which could be very relevant in cases of dispute, be it forensic, business valuation, how to be an expert witness. An expert is just not providing an expert report on valuation, but you have to stand the test of testimony. So whatever you put in your report will be questioned by the other side, because they would feel, by either of the side who would feel that it is not appropriate or not making their case, and they will have the opportunity to challenge your work, and you should be able to stand your ground and able to respond in a quasi courtroom environment. So there are trainings that make you ready for these, and that you can also consider taking. Get some real world case experience, be part of, you can work with some law firms, you can work with some judges as to shadowing them and understand how it works. Read some agreements, read some awards which they can share or which you can find online, and build some experience which can help you develop a portfolio, and then showcase your expertise in different situations to the stakeholders that I had shared earlier. um, some of the effective uh, modes, some of the effective experiences that has helped me, some things that I have done to grow and create opportunities in this space is something that I want to share with you. The most important is build a network in the ADR ecosystem. People should know that you are someone who's capable of doing and contributing meaningfully in this ecosystem. So participate in this. Look at what are the events happening. There is an alternative dispute week in India. There's dispute resolution weeks in India. There are bodies who organize events. You can be part of these events and learn from people, and they can be part of your network and consider you when they need. So this is a very underrated tool to develop your network around people who are already part of the community, and they knowing what you bring to the table. Start collaborating with different firms. Find, be it law firms, firms who specializes in dispute, some CAs who do that. That will only help you build your network, build your credentials, and then you can further upon that. You can further offer certain services to your clients who can, who existing client who can help, which can help you to really be part of the next step, and next to next step be learning how to draft contract or be part of commercial negotiations and contracts, and then knowing how these really are drafted, and then you're able to really learn how these are impacted when things go wrong. Start writing expert theses, financial reports, publications. All of this builds your profile as an expert, as an arbitrator, and all of this can really help, practically speaking, to create some sort of traction. Obviously, you have to market these services. Obviously, as chartered accountants and auditors, we do not provide any marketing, but the idea is to be present, visible, and be a thought leader, and people be aware of your capability to do such things. Be aware of what developments happen. There was a super big dispute between Future Amazon that happened, which caught the eyes. It was very big. A lot of CAs were involved, a lot of different parties were involved. There are a lot of forums which provide these news databases. Be aware. If you know someone, reach out to them and build that credibility. And not only in India, there are several databases and platforms which does that internationally. um, how once you have understood what needs to be done, once you have done your background work, what could be the next steps for a CA to really find opportunities is to get empaneled with institutions, collaborate with firms and tell them about what your expertise are, and all of this will definitely bring work. Be part of professional networks and associations who are dealing with such works. Inform your clients about your ability. Bring your sector expertise. Look into sectors. See what are the disputes that are happening. Speak to people who are part of those disputes and see what role you can play based on the experience you have. That's the bottom line that will help you to really get into and then get going into different aspects of ADR. Now, empanelment opportunities. There are, as I was saying, there are both Indian and international institution. There is MCAI, which is called Mumbai Center for International Arbitration. There is a website. They get empaneled. They ask for empanelment as arbitrator, mediator, experts. Go for their look at their website. Look for calls when it comes for empanelment. Subscribe to them and then be part of such forums. Similarly, there is DISC, ICA. All of them, they have their websites and they have their requirement for empanelments, and you can be part of uh, these bodies. And once you are empaneled, obviously you have to meet the empanelment criteria. But once you get empaneled, you will automatically uh, start getting or inquiries in the space of ADR. There are major law firms in India, Magic Circle law firms, big law firms that you would have heard and known about, who started has started empaneling experts, who have started empaneling arbitrators. You could speak them, find connects who could go do introductions and start speaking and finding opportunities there. And obviously there are industry specific bodies who also manage these disputes, and you can reach out to these bodies and find a way where they are involved in ADR and help them push and ask them to push forward your case if you have some connects there. So, as I was saying, there are multiple stages in an arbitration, and an expert as a CA, you can be involved in all the stages, be it pre-case, whether to assess whether or not to proceed, do a cost benefit analysis, and suggest your client to proceed or not. When the case has started, to submit some expert report, do financial assessment, quantification of damages, rebutting other side's report, because other side might also bring in an expert that again will be a CA or similar professional. So again, you will find common professional people from both sides and have opportunity to then further engage and come to a common consensus. Then hearing stages, obviously you will still be involved as to what you have done will be testified, and the tribunal might ask for questions and you would have to answer, and therefore you will also be part of this stage. And then obviously post hearing, there will be legal awards which would you would get to know of. But at each stage, as a CA, as an expert, as a mediator, you'll always be anyways be across all the stages. As an arbitrator, you can play some critical role depending on what the matter is at hand. So I think with that, I will pause here. I think I have completed my deliberation today, and I'm happy to hear from you. From all what I've discussed, I would be I would be very happy if someone finds this interesting and is wanting to take this opportunity. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the enriching session. We all have learned that chartered accountants can meaningfully contribute to the field of alternative dispute resolution in multiple capacities, whether it is an arbitrator, mediator, conciliator, expert, forensic auditor, or advisor. The professional landscape under ADR is vast and increasingly relevant. Are we all ready to broaden our professional identity beyond conventional roles? Are we all prepared to position ourselves as neutral experts, forensic specialists, or strategic advisors in complex commercial disputes? Indeed, we all wish to. With this food for thought, let us now proceed to question and answer sessions. So I can see one question that can a practicing CA act as an arbitrator after taking the ADR course of ICAI, or is there any other eligibility criteria to act as arbitrator?
Perfect. It's a very valid question. If you look at the practicing CA, can obviously become an arbitrator, but the arbitration acts provide for a list of experiences, and I'm happy to share it. There has to be a minimum years of experience. There has to be a couple of other things with respect to good merit and having some understanding of arbitration act, which I believe the arbitration certificate that ICA provides gives you. So there are a list of 4 5 criteria that are set out in the arbitration act. One which is years of experience, I think 10 plus 15 plus years. Two, some uh, good standing, good certificate in terms of your ethics and background, and then some technical requirement of having knowledge of arbitration act, which I think is covered by the ICI course, but I can get back and share those separately. It's easily available, and it's identified in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act as list of requirements to become an arbitrator. Now that is one, but second is you can become an arbitrator uh, as a registered arbitrator, but how do you really get these arbitration appointments? So you have to be empaneled as arbitrator as different institutions, be it an MCI, a SEAC, or the others. And all these institutions have their own set of requirements. So you would have to see where you want to become. Let's say there is an Indian Council of Arbitration. So if you want to become an empaneled arbitrator there, you have to see what does the institution require, which will be more or less in line with arbitration, but they might need something extra. So it is on case to case basis. But CA in itself, with n number of years of experience, will give you a good start. And from there, you have to bring some arbitration experience or technical learning, which is the arbitration course that ICA provides. There are bodies such as CIA, ARB, and I will share those names, who also provide trainings to become an arbitrator, which also helps you develop your credential as arbitrator and opens door on for various forums. So you can take these trainings as well to bring up your profile as arbitrators.
Thank you, sir. Any one of you still having any query may submit the query so that I can ask questions to sir. Okay, we are not getting any other questions, so we are getting further. Thank you, sir, for addressing these queries so comprehensively, and thank you so much for that insightful and comprehensive session. I think your depth of experience and clarity of explanation have truly enlightened us about the role of chartered accountant in the field of ADR. That's why we don't need to ask much questions. You made it understand so well.
No worries.
I,
Any my conclusion here would be, see, I think it's a new frontier, and we could all explore a bit more. Anyone has an I do this, but I'm more than happy for my CA brothers and sisters and friends to come ahead and take it up further. And anyone has any questions can reach out to ICAI team or the team organizing this, and we could connect. And happy to help in any manner possible.
and I also want to thank all the participants for joining us for this evening. We hope this session added value to your professional knowledge and inspired you to explore ADR as a viable career stream. And do not forget to fill your feedback and mark your attendance to claim the 2 hours of unrestricted CP credit. With this, we conclude the session. Wishing you all a good evening ahead. Thank you and Jay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir. Thank you all.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj, sir. Yes, we can.